Okay, September 8th, 2022, 9 a.m. Finance IT Committee. Mandy, could you call the roll?
Young,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McTaggart,
Yes. Okay, call the meeting to order. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes.
Mr. Bowers, seconded by Mr. Alt. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Do you have any public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to Myron Munyon and the general liability insurance.
Good morning. We had discussed the cyber policy. We've got the renewal on that. It's extensively higher as anticipated. So we're quoting that out with ICRMT. And Jill's working on the application. And once we get that quote back, I'll present it to the board. And then at this meeting, I'd like to have Bob Spring from IPMG, ICRMT, discuss the evaluation of the buildings and address any concerns that the board would have on where we're at right now. And then Josh Blackwell is with ICRMT, IPMG as well, and he's here to answer any questions as well. So if it's okay with the board, I'll let these guys speak.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time. I don't have a big presentation prepared. I was asked to come, I'm talking with Myron. I think there were some questions and some issues that were brought up at a previous meeting regarding a few things that had taken place. And so we want to be available to answer questions for you guys of some of the services that have been going on and that we're doing, and make sure that everyone's on the same page and kind of communicate, work through those. So are there any questions genuine by the committee? Or
There was some rescheduling for the policies and procedures on some of the training. I think there were some cancellations and rescheduling, and John had brought it to my attention. And as I told John, I would bring the concerns to the company and have them address that as well. So these guys are here to answer any complaints or questions or anything that you guys think are lacking or are not up to par or would like to see. And then also, when we did the ICRMT, when we switched, we all knew that we were going to do a building evaluation. So I know it's been a long time since any of the buildings have been reevaluated. So what happens is, it's like an insurance policy for your home. They come in and they do a cost replacement estimator. What would it cost to put this building back? And, it's probably been a long time since you guys have had one. So it's expensive to do as well if you've ever done one for your home or buying or selling. They incurred the cost of what it took to get everything evaluated. And then now the values have changed, obviously, especially with the materials the way they are. So there's gonna be some changes so Bob is here to kind of give a little synopsis of what that would look like.
yeah, with regards to appraisal, we Duff and Phelps, or I should say Kroll, formerly Duff and Phelps, did a full appraisal of all real property. And so what we had originally, we had the buildings valued at $19.8 million is what when we first wrote the county back last fall. And after the appraisal, they've come back with an appraised value of $36.6 million. So what Myron will get in your hands, the full appraisal of all the things. There's a couple buildings to note. I think one, the historic courthouse, and that would be one that I think there's some questions that we can discuss but the valuation on that building alone came back significantly higher. If you were to rebuild that with the same like, kind, and quality of material, if it were to be totally destroyed. So, and obviously too, what you're finding with some of these numbers is I think, and part of what we want to be ahead of, or at least communicating, is obviously inflation today and things that are going on. The cost of labor and cost of materials have gone up considerably. So some of these numbers will reflect that. So I guess we just wanted you to be prepared as he passes that along, that we want to have some open lines of communication, because there's going to be some increases on specifically on a couple of those bigger buildings. Some of the rest, I think, 3, 4, or 5%, nothing too crazy in terms of the appraised value. But I know the historic courthouse, I think, is one that stuck out, that had a sizable increase.
This one as well, I think.
Yeah, I think this building as well.
Yeah,
But so there's like 2 major buildings that had a big increase, and we can discuss that too. So there is options in terms of insuring it. And that would be a discussion for you guys with the historic courthouse. If if the cost going up says, hey, is it worth it? The question is, what do you rebuild in that position, right? If you had a total loss, is there, you can do an actual cash value rebuild where you say, hey, we're gonna insure it for less and just build a functional building. We don't need the historic or some of the same materials. I don't know exactly, it's in the report what would be in there, but I don't know if it's marble floors or things of that nature, where all of a sudden costs can come down just based on the construction.
So do we know what the premium impacts are as far as for the budget or anything yet, or?
Yeah, and then we can provide you all that, I'll have Myron provide you all that to you in writing, just speaking here, so when we originally, the last fall, your property premium alone was $29,738. If we, just looking at the appraised values, if everything was to just be taken at replacement cost and pushed through, it would go up $25,198. Now that's not necessarily an underwritten number, that's just, hey, if you push it all through at this time, which is not something that we're saying to do, but we wanna make sure you have the correct values and we wanna provide that information. And obviously, as we get to renewal, we can talk about that, so I think there's some ability to work on that number and then talk about some of those buildings, but the majority of it's gonna come with those two buildings, this building and the historic courthouse, in terms of the value.
You know how much is for the courthouse out of that 25?
I don't, I can tell you, so we originally had the courthouse at 2.6 million, and I think now the appraised, it came back at 8 million to rebuild. So, that's gonna be, so of your $16 million increase in valuation, that's right there, 5.5 million. So, I mean, and then this building, the right one here, went from 4.8 to 8.5 million dollars. And the reason we do the appraisals obviously is to, that's where we have a third party come out and do it, to get you guys the information. It'll go through the cost of construction, cost per square foot, you'll see all that information. But the real reason is so that if there is a total loss, at that time, there's not confusion or surprise on anyone's side where it says all of a sudden you thought you were gonna have the building rebuilt in the same capacity, and all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, that's not gonna get us what we wanted. That's why we do the appraisal.
Yep. I think, obviously, we probably need to look at the numbers or whatever, but my personal feeling, whatever it's worth, it's even having the old courthouse, not that we wanna see anything happen to it, but having it insured for 2.6 million, I can't imagine there being a concerted effort to rebuild this. And it's not like when the Notre Dame Cathedral caught on fire here, and I don't know that the community would be desperately needing to build an old courthouse up again. But even 2.6, having it insured for 2.6 million seems excessive to me, but I would think we need to look at those, or we would want to, for sure.
I think you need to look at our obligation for that historic courthouse as well, since it's on the National Register of Historic Structures or whatever they call it.
Do they make you, does anyone know how that works?
I can tell you that the Village of Rantoul with Chanute Air Museum, or the Chanute Air Force Base, there was a couple buildings there that were on the historical registry. And just to replace a window, it had to be the exact same type, and everything had to be the same window. You couldn't just take one of these windows and put it in there, right? So they do dictate what you can and can't do with the building. To at least on the repair side of it. So that's just something to note. I definitely recommend looking into that further.
We went through some of that with the ARPA committee when they got some money for some repairs over there recently.
I guess probably nobody here knows the exact answer, but are we obligated to keep that building function?
Well, I don't know. I say we need to find that out.
Because, yeah, that's, can't imagine that, God forbid, it burnt to the ground, that we'd be obligated to put up in 1800 standards to replace it. I mean,
It's agree would be, yeah.
And that's why we wanted to bring it to your attention, because some of these things, when they come across, will be alarming, saying, hey, it's not just a premium increase, but to redo that, as you know, that becomes part of the challenge, right? It is if the expectation was to have it rebuilt in the exact same kind of quality, the expense would be greater than what we had it insured, which I insured for 2.6.
okay, we probably need to look into that. As far as your questions, as far as the first topic you were talking about there, as far as the service and all those things, this committee, I don't think we've ever really talked about those issues. So I don't know if there's anything you wanna, or John, you have anything with regards to that, but I guess, I don't know that we've had any conversations about that on the finance committee ever.
You know, John voiced some opinions at there, or voiced some concerns at the policy and procedure about getting scheduled events. I know we had to go back and forth a few times with getting some things scheduled and dates and, so. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say to that.
Well, our effort to be here today is, we're committed to obviously working with Iroquois County, and we got a number of different services, and so I certainly want, at any time I can make any meeting, so, I'll leave that to you guys in mind, we'd be happy to attend. If there is ever any concerns or questions, we'd be happy to, look into them, address them, and make sure that we get whatever resolution we can to them. We don't want to ignore or downplay anything like that. So if there's ever any concerns or questions, please let us know. We'd be happy to get those answers or address those issues.
Yeah, I think right now, as he said, our biggest concern is with the policy manual that we have, that, last year we went through that entire manual, and then you guys became our representatives or insurance company, and so now we're going through it again. And we've been trying to get somebody from your organization to attend our meetings so that we can get some of our questions answered and whatnot. We need to get that manual in place because it serves as a very valuable tool in the way we
Absolutely.
operate here.
So what the service we provide is we actually have the attorneys review it and make suggestions and do it. So obviously none of what they say is mandated, but suggestions. So maybe if there's questions you have about policies that they drafted or suggestions they've made, if we can accumulate those questions and we'll get them in the hands of the attorney, because I can't speak, I'm not the attorney. I can't speak as to why they would word a policy or put in it, but we'd be happy to get it in their hands and then get you guys the responses or comment back on why they drafted the policy the way they did, if that's concerned.
Well, that's something entirely new to us. We didn't have that understanding. We thought there was a representative from your organization coming to our last two meetings, and we sat there at the meetings with nobody there, kind of empty-handed, and we're able to get much accomplished. I guess that's the nuts and bolts of our problem.
Okay.
So if we need to go through the whole book ourselves, and we'll have a long list of questions, I can guarantee you that.
We'd be happy to answer them. Ultimately, you have to adopt the policies that the templates or the suggestions that we put forward, so.
That's not the point. I think the point is that we want that policy manual to be something that we understand and are in agreement with, and also that you understand and are in
Correct.
agreement with. It's gotta be a mutual thing.
Correct. Yeah, so I mean, that's why we have the attorneys draft it, and so, if there's, obviously you guys have to read through it to be in agreement with it, so I mean that.
Yeah, and part of that too is the attorneys are looking at it from kind of a boilerplate point of view, right? They're not gonna know your individual county and how it operates. So to give you an example, if they have a rule on what you can wear to work, and you guys don't want to have that particular rule, if you say you can't wear shorts to work, right? But you say, well, we don't care, you have to make that change. So they're just going to give you kind of a blanket approach with, hey, here's our recommendations, but ultimately it's gonna be up to what you guys think on what specific language you wanna have in there, and then we can always review it again. If you add something in there that you think could bring you, issues, we can have them review it. But to give an example, the Crown Act is coming up in January, and that dictates that you can't discriminate against someone based on the way they wear their hair. So you wanna make sure that your policy is up to date with that.
It's a real deal.
It's a real deal, and it literally can lead to federal civil rights violation. So, I mean, I know it's kind of you're laughing about it, but it's something that's to know. And ultimately, we're gonna give you this recommendation, hey, this is how you should have it. Whether you choose to do it or not is gonna be on you, but obviously the key is to reduce your exposure out there to any litigation.
Let me go back and say again, last year we went through the entire book with our previous carrier. We thought we're in agreement with them and ourselves is how we wanted it done. So we gave you the manual in November, so here's what we've got, we'd like you to review it. And it came back with a whole bunch of comments about things and use of terms that we don't think we like and that we don't understand. So what we had before, that's what we wanted. Now you're telling me that we should disregard all the recommendations you made, or we can't have some discussion about them so we can gain some understanding.
We'd be happy to
compromise,
engage
or
in discussion.
whatever we need to do in order to get something that we're both comfortable with.
Yeah, we would need to get your questions and comments in the attorney's hands, because that's who made the comment. And as for if you're comfortable with some of the policies that you have in place, we're not mandating or telling you that you need to change them by any means. The service was offered as just a way to say, hey, if there's any suggestions that can be made to help you guys protect the county or stay current if you had concerns over it. If you're satisfied with the way your policies read today, then you don't necessarily, we're not making you make changes. We're simply offering the opportunity to have the attorneys review any policies or all policies if you feel that there's improvement to be made or want to get their opinions on that. And that's really truly what they are, is our attorneys' opinions based on our policy language as to how you can best protect the county. So if there's questions or concerns or ones that you're not in alignment with their views, we'd be happy to get more comment from them on that. And by no means do you have to adopt it. That is one attorney's recommendation. It's just simply trying to make sure that we provide it for all members to make sure that if your employee handbook has not been reviewed or you have areas that lack and you want to get them up to speed, is to protect it so that you have the tools to protect you, because ultimately that's going to be your defense in the event that you're getting sued for an employment related issue. So that was the attempt with that service. So if there's questions or concerns on their comments, please, if you can submit them to get them to Myron or Josh or myself, and we will get them as the attorney and get their comments or views back to you. And then if we have to set up a call or something, I would be happy to do it.
Okay, I guess we'll see where we go.
I'd be happy to attend the policies and procedures meeting, and then if there's any confusion or question on that portion of the part that you're reviewing, then I can make notes and then submit them to the risk manager, and then they can review it and decide whether it needs to go to the attorney or maybe give interpretation of something. And I think maybe that's part of of it, is some of the stuff that came back needs interpretation. Am I wrong on that? I mean.
Well, I don't have the list in front of me of all the things that we found when we began our review of it, but I do recall things like saying, let's say, for example, there was a question on a particular matter as to who would resolve it and how it would be resolved. They put in their terms, well, it would be whatever is reasonable. Who knows what reasonable is? I mean, to me, that's a terrible word to use, because what's reasonable for you or her or me are entirely different. We need to have more specificity with a lot of this, and I think that's kind of what we've discovered so far, is that we're being led away from that and into something that's more general.
Let us get attorney's feedback on that. I'm wondering in some of those, without knowing the context of the whole policy, sometimes getting too specific leads you into an area that you can't accommodate. and creates liability where he says if it's real specific and you fail to do it where, and I'm not an attorney, but they can use some vagueness to say what's reasonable at the time, and then all of a sudden, you can support, hey, this is our actions that we took at the time versus making it very specific, which can create greater liability for you where you fail to meet specific demands, if that is. So I don't know specifically if that's what in that policy, but sometimes they will try to put verbiage in there so that you're not walking into creating liability or putting yourself into a position that you can't defend versus creating, a more loose scenario on that. So, but let's get their commentary on that.
We'll go back to square one and get a list of the things that we have questions about and get together with Myron and see where that
Okay.
takes us. I think that's probably the best bet,
Okay.
so, okay.
Appreciate it.
Then I think we probably need to, for next meeting, have whatever with the actual policy, whenever these changes happen with the properties, we need to have that on the agenda to talk about, and I guess how we, Myron, can, like, it sounded like you had indicated that we don't necessarily have to adopt those real values even on this building necessarily, that's just, there may be some discretion in how far we insure things.
There's some different methods to doing it in terms of valuation. I wouldn't, I think from this building, you probably want replacement costs and that you're gonna wanna put back so that you can conduct business. There is some other valuations that are less expensive from a premium standpoint. We can get you ideas of how much it saves. If you go to a functional, right, then it says, do you get the amenities and some of what you had? Or an actual cash value, and then if you do that and insure it to 4 million versus 8, you'll get, in a total loss, you get $4 million. And then if that's not gonna get you what you need, then, so we're not telling you what you have to do per se. I mean, I can make some recommendations. I think the expectation is you have this building reconstructed in the same kind of quality that you have today, then you'd wanna have an accurate value.
Right.
With the historic courthouse, I would say that's something that's a bigger conversation. You say, hey, would we ever rebuild it in that same manner? You may not. And then you can discuss, okay, what other methods?
Then we probably need to get to the bottom on the courthouse for sure, the whole courthouse, of what we are required to do. My personal opinion is, I wouldn't rebuild it. But if we're legally obligated to or something, then we probably need to understand that, so. Okay, thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to Susie and the group insurance.
Yes, okay guys, so we've got the press renewal back so far. The original renewal is coming in at 9%, but I've already requested rate relief and I'm hoping to get us down to at least 3%, which I think we're gonna do, which is great. Delta Dental, we haven't gotten the renewal yet, waiting on that. IMED got the renewal, no rate increase, another 4-year rate guarantee. And then I'm waiting, the Kansas City Life renewal, we're in the second year of a 2-year rate guarantee. However, Blue Cross said if we add another line, like let's say the life and the vol life, we'll get another percentage off even what I've asked for rate relief. So we could probably get it down to 2%. Do you guys wanna see a quote from Blue Cross Life just to compare it to Kansas City Life? It also gives a chance if we do move the life to a new company, we can do guarantee issue again for current employees, meaning you can buy up on voluntary life insurance to a guarantee issue without having to go through underwriting. Whereas right now, it's only when you're first hired on.
Right.
Or if you do it at open enrollment, you have to fill out a statement of health to go through underwriting. So I'm really pleased right now, I'm working with our rep at Blue Cross. He seems pretty he seems very confident that he can get the renewal down to where we wanna get it down to, and then if we did add again, another line, like the life insurance, we could get another % off. They said dental too, but their dental network just isn't as good as Delta Dental, and we've had some really good renewals with Delta Dental. And their vision network is IMED. We could look to move the vision, and if you want, I can get a quote just to compare apples to apples, because if it is gonna be another % or 0.5% off, then why not?
Right. Yeah,
You good with that?
I wouldn't, yeah, I mean, I think getting some quotes or proposals together wouldn't hurt anything at all.
No, right, okay, so then what I'll do is I'll email that over to you and Amanda.
Okay.
I'm waiting for Blue Cross to get back to me with the rate relief. I'll get the life quote and the vision quote.
Okay.
We can compare it to what we have and then go from there.
Okay.
Also, we have a new Aflac rep that we're working with. Her name is Erin. Erin with an E. The prior one was Erin with an A. But anyway, she also works for the WARE group, which has different vendors that do voluntary worksite benefits. Are you guys pleased with Aflac? Do you wanna look at something different?
I think everybody seems to be generally pleased with Aflac.
Are you guys having any billing issues or anything on that end?
Not any that have been brought to our attention.
No? Okay, perfect. Any questions for me?
When will you know about the,
I'm hoping to know, I was hoping to know before today, but I'm sure I'll probably know by, if not tomorrow, or early next week. Okay, but know that it's gonna go down from the 9% it came in at, for sure.
Okay.
The renewal.
it looks like from the general fund perspective, if my math's right, that'd be, there's 5,000 worth of savings at the 9%, and if we got down to the 3, that would be 40,000 from
Yeah.
what we have in the budget, so roughly.
Does that fit into where you need to be then?
Even if you could save more money than.
I know, I'm trying,
That would be-
I'm doing my
I
best.
think 3% in this world would probably be.
Trend is 10 to 12, so we're already under trend.
That would be-
Yeah.
And he said, okay, let me see what I can do, I go, I need to be at least at 3% coming down, if we can get more, great. That's when he suggested adding the extra line, so, hey, if we can get 2%, you guys are seeing a portion of that, the employees see a portion of that, but it's not anything horrible.
Sure.
Okay,
Sounds good.
awesome, have a good day, you guys.
Thanks so much.
See you later.
Okay. Good news on the insurance front for once. Maybe.
Was
I
not
guess it's not
expecting
done
that.
yet,
I mean, I have it in here as the
Maybe.
9.9, but yeah, I wasn't
I
expecting
think
that.
it'd be, if she could get to 3, that'd be about roughly $40,000 in savings from what's in.
I'd like it to pay for the other one.
Yeah, pay for our other insurance. Okay, Bernie, this is not.
He's only quarterly.
For that, so then we'll go to department head reports. Kurt?
Our second installment is due Friday, and as of today, yesterday when we checked, we had
Tomorrow.
tomorrow, it is tomorrow, yeah. This week screwed me up. So yeah, tomorrow, and as of yesterday, we had 79% of the taxes collected, so. We'll see what happens by tomorrow.
Very good. Got all the Edward Jones stuff? Excuse me.
I've got to get some more paperwork to them they've got to review, policies and stuff like that, investment policies to make sure that they're compatible with the state and stuff like of what we can do, so.
Yep.
I'm getting that to them, so.
Very good. Okay, Sheriff?
Update on the radio stuff as far as the dispatchers not being able to make contact with the deputies. Looks like that's going up about 10 instances a month. I did meet with Motorola with the StarCom. They showed me another map, including some other towers. It's still not total coverage up in the northeast corner and down in the southwest corner. But they are looking at other towers. They said that there could be an option where if we had to include towers, that would be owned by the county or leased by the county. So this could be a costly venture, but a better solution than just patching things as we go through for our radio system. KC Communications did kind of provide a solution, but we would have to have a study done for $800 on how many repeaters that we would need throughout the county for the existing system. The estimate is 4 to 5 sites at a cost of $8,000 to $10,000 per site. That would be for adding that equipment. I'm meeting with the guy next Monday on some grant funding for that. He's been successful in receiving some grants. The two deputies graduated from the police academy on 8/12. They started their 10-week field training program. The Buckley assistant contract, I think you guys all got a copy of that. Chairman and I went and met with Buckley and Cissna on Tuesday morning. It was approved by the board members at the Buckley meeting. It's just gotta be gone through their attorney. Lieutenant Warfield advised a good start date would be November 15th. I was hoping to get it a little bit quicker than that. If we get them through the field training program a little bit quicker, we'll be able to provide those services a little bit earlier. The body scanner update, I met with the Adani rep in mid-August, said shipping and install date will be coming soon, probably mid-September. The merit board interviews were completed with the 3 candidates that passed the physical and written test. All 3 were certified. One candidate was offered a position with the Sheriff's Department to fill the open position in corrections. He will start on 9/12. One officer is going to the 5-week training on that date exactly. Next year, it will be an 8-week training academy for the corrections instead of a 5-week. So I was able to get her into the class this year as opposed to pushing it off into next year. That way at least we save 3 weeks of overtime and not having that correctional officer. I did meet with the Buckley mayor on Tuesday after the chairman and I met. I looked at the squad car, which actually we sold to them. They don't have any need for it. It's got 180,000 miles. It's got the computer that would be usable for us, computer mount. He's got some other items. There's an older taser. I don't know as if we'd be interested in that. If we would, it'd be a smaller cost, but I'll try to put a price package together for the computer and the mount. I don't think the vehicle is gonna get us anything at 180,000 miles. Things are really starting to break down. The squad car looks really good. It's just kind of past its time. I know there's a lot of stuff that I tell you guys that I also tell the judicial committee. I don't like that it's read twice. I think that's kind of redundant, but I feel that you guys, if there's kind of an overlap, you guys need to know about some of this stuff as well. So, you guys have any questions at all?
Where are these classes held?
For the deputy,
Yeah.
the last 2 went to Belleville, which is down by Southern Illinois. They're broadening out their class size, so they're really stepping it up. Their motto is never to turn any department away. So I think they had a size of 91 in their last class.
How about the COs?
They graduated COs, should be going to McLean County, which is the McLean County Law Enforcement Training. So,
Do they stay there?
yes. Yeah, they stay there. For the police academy, for this academy, they still stayed in the hotel, but the next academy's coming up, they'll stay on campus. So that alleviates some issues that you have with younger kids staying in hotels fairly unsupervised. So when I went to the academy, I stayed in the hotel, and it was a good time. So, yeah, the police academy is going to go from 14 weeks to 16 weeks. So it's just all the added things that the Training and Standards Board says that we've got to be trained on. So.
Thank you. Eric? ETSB met yesterday. We had our all hands, Mr. McTaggart and Chairman Shure join us to speak to the joint dispatch budget and how we're going to try and get that lined up to resolve some of the salary issues that are in there and how much is contributed by the 3 main entities. we're gonna meet again next month. I think that's a good way that we can begin the conversations and move it forward and make sure that everybody understands how that budget's run and the direction it's heading. There was a lot of good conversation, a lot of suggestions to move it forward. Other than that, that's all I got.
Joel? Rhian?
Just wanna let you guys know about the permanent vote by mail mailing that went out, as far as cost wise. We sent 17,878 permanent vote by mail applications out. So it cost the county approximately $12,000 to mail those. Now, we have to do that again before the consolidated election, which is a lot of money, right? We have received approximately 750 back. That was as of September 6th. So anyway, just wanted to give you an update on that. And then we were awarded a polling place accessibility grant yesterday. We received notification. So we'll be able to purchase handicap voting booths for all of the precincts that don't have handicap voting booths. During the pandemic, we had to purchase several poll booths that were not like our old, if many of you remember. We used to have metal booths that spanned a wall. There were probably, at some polling places, there were 4, at some there were 5. They were ginormous, difficult to put up. Anyway, when we had to separate the booths because we couldn't use those metal ones, we were able to purchase several freestanding booths or cardboard booths, which those are pretty much just a couple time use and cheap enough that it got us through. But anyway, the supervisors who set up for us and everything, they really liked the freestanding booths. And they're easy to set up, like a smaller area to store things. So anyway, with this polling place accessibility grant, we'll be able to get the handicap booths that we did not have at the 2020 and 2021 elections. So just wanted to let you know that we got that grant. And then when we were talking about the old courthouse museum, I just wanted to bring this down. I know we've talked about it before, the shape of our microfilm. This is our record book 245 microfilm. You can, well, my fingers are getting wet touching it. It's deteriorating so much, it's like basically liquefying. Anyway, I'm going to talk to the ARPA committee about possibly rescinding a resolution that they had passed to digitize images from 80 to 89 and focus on these records instead, because these need to be addressed. But I'm just letting every committee that I go to know we need to do something about this. So
You know, if there's gonna be a cost difference, cause
there's going to be a cost difference.
Cause it was $76,720,
Yes, right.
I believe that was
Right,
approved.
so there is going to be a cost difference. For what we have to have done, as far as what is destroyed, it is book A through N and then 17 through 378. But we do have some of those books digitized, so I don't know exactly how many rolls it is. However, since this is in such bad shape, they're going to have to use our original books, which are at the old courthouse museum. And they're gonna have to be on site to scan. So that's also gonna be another expense. I don't know how much, I'm projecting it's going to be probably 300,000 to do it. Just for what the 10 years of film was that we had, which if I can't do all of it, that's fine, but I need to do some of it, because if the old courthouse burns down, God forbid, we lose all of our records. Going back quite a few years, 1835 to probably the 40s. So, which would be devastating for property records in Iroquois County. So anyway, just wanted to touch on that too. And I'm gonna leave those over here because they stink really bad.
I mean, I get that part of the backup plan is you have deeds over here, but, right, is that?
Well, we have microfilm at the state archives. However, we don't know what shape it's in. I'm gonna assume it's in better shape, but leaving those in the state archives is the best plan. And then again, scanning from those original books. So talk to the old courthouse just as far as the possibility of, because when they would come to scan, they would want to come for 24-hour access. So I talked to them about that, and if not, I would give them that to my office, as long as they didn't need a bathroom, I guess. But anyway, it's something that needs to be addressed because, again, we can't make copies of anything in some of these books. And we've known that we've had this, just didn't know how quickly they would deteriorate, and they just keep getting worse and worse. And now they look like this, so.
How many and what years are those?
This is 1835 to probably 1940. I don't know specifically what year these are, but I would guess they're probably in the early 1900s with the book number.
So
When
300.
did they actually do those though?
When did they microfilm these? I want to say it was in the late 60s or early 70s, but I can't remember 100% for sure. But it's something that if you know anyone in the microfilm industry, if they hear the words vinegar syndrome, they're like, ew, because they know you can't save it. And it's a developer that was used that is causing the breakdown of this film. So again, and according to state archives, the responsibility of the county is to maintain all of the recording records going back to the beginning of the county's time, so 1835 to present. Just getting them on digital image is not how state archives would want them done. They want them microfilmed as well, which they have a different kind of microfilm now. So they want digital and microfilm because the digital images can become corrupt, which I have run across that in some of our recording documents that are strictly digital. So just something to think about. And again, I'm gonna talk to ARPA tomorrow just to see what we can possibly do. I'm gonna put out an RFP just to know how much it's gonna cost for those records, but I just wanted to let everyone know. Cool.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were gonna have to send out those letters again for the consolidated.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they've said it in the law that we were supposed to. The statute actually says or, but the way the state board reads the statute, it is both. So both general and consolidated. I don't know. I don't want to send them out.
Do you have to do it, I mean, is that it then, or we gotta do this every time?
It says before the general or consolidated, so.
But I mean, in future years, is what,
I
don't know.
don't know what the exact statute says regarding the years. If it sunsets or anything like that, I can't remember off the top of my head. I may not do it because I do know there are some county clerks that are like, I am not sending that out again because if you want to sign up for permanent vote by mail, you'll sign up. So I'm gonna get an opinion from Jim regarding the or, because when I read it, every time I read it, doesn't matter what way I read it as it means I can do either or. So I don't know. I'll get his opinion if he says don't mail it.
Given your stunning response on this
Yes,
one, I would say.
yes.
And my own wife, I forgot to tell her that you gave fair warning, and I got a text message one day. It's not her fault.
Yeah, thank you.
Cause you had said it
It's the
was
state of Illinois.
all together doing all that for the last one.
About 12,000. Yeah,
I would vote no.
right.
That's my legal, professional legal.
Yes.
We'll go with the
Your
or.
Google law like mine.
Okay, John, do you have anything?
I just wanna mention that on the 28th of September, we'll be beginning our negotiations with the union for the contract for the deputies and sergeants and lieutenants. We don't have a date scheduled yet for the telecommunicators, but we'll see how our initial discussions with on the 28th go and try and get, you know, we wanna get them both done as soon as we can, but, I'd hoped we'd be able to get started before the 28th, but trying to get everybody's schedules to cooperate just to the 28th, so it's. Be at 1 o'clock on the 28th in this room here.
Okay. Jill? Oh, sorry.
Somebody had said recycling.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up.
That's Saturday,
Mhm.
so I think where is it gonna be held at,
The old Riverside, or the old Kmart,
oh,
Parking lot.
Riverside?
yeah, Riverside.
Riverside's parking lot, okay. I just thought I'd let everybody know since we're participating in that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Good reminder. I forgot about that.
I just spoke with Hope yesterday about our audit. It is it's going through review right now, so hopefully in the next couple weeks that'll be issued. I did put in an email and a phone call to, the GATA, Portal Information Center to let them know that, you know, I'm not just ignoring our SCADA requirements. I don't have the audit completed yet, and also included Hope's information if they had any questions. So they are aware of it, will be inputted as soon as I receive it within the next couple weeks, but I can't do anything without it. I can't upload what I don't have, so.
Okay.
They are aware. Other than that, budget.
Okay. We'll move on to open and take action on bids for election equipment and election services.
I'm gonna come up here if you don't mind.
Yes. I, once again, did not bring a knife for this.
I do not. Sorry, bro.
This one looks easier for me to get into. Look at that little guy. Good.
You'll get through airport security.
Governmental business systems
And Liberty
and
Systems.
Liberty systems.
Mhm. Okay, so what I had them quote was for excuse me. I was looking for a quote for the election equipment as well as election services for the next 6 years. So this is gonna include anything that would need to be done as far as the election, coding, retabs, I'm just trying to find the part of my, proposal. So it would be for, printed test decks, ballot and ballot sample printing, applications to vote, precinct supply kits, ballot coding and audio, the lock and load of our devices, early vote and ballot on demand setup, assistance during the public test, on-site election day support, assistance during the retab, the annual equipment maintenance, if any there be, and then also election judge training, staff training, shipping and handling, the licensing fees, annual license fees, annual warranty fees, firmware upgrade fees, tried to encompass everything that this is going to cost. So, some of the information is going to be for just voting equipment only, and then some is going to be for that 6-year contract. The 6-year contract won't take effect until 2024 budget, so we don't have to worry about it for the 2023 budget, because I have a feeling these annual maintenance fees are going to increase our contracts. So anyway, looking at Liberties, and I'm just gonna like throw out a number for like the voting equipment total and then the quarterly payments. I'm not looking to take any action on these today, as far as, because I want to study them to make sure we're looking at an apples to apples comparison. But we do have Ross, and Ross, I am sorry, I do not know your last name.
It's Mac.
Ross Mack?
Yep.
Okay, from Liberty Systems, if,
Yeah.
do you wanna go over your proposal?
I can if you
or-
like, sure.
Sure, yeah.
I guess if you're on, you asked for a ton of stuff and
I know.
we try to be really thorough, so we'll go through the beginning of that. It's got the history of Liberty Systems. It has every election we've done and which counties we've done it for. But these guys are here for the money part. so
Right, absolutely.
We're gonna skip
That's
ahead to
what we
that.
want.
You asked for a purchase option. If you purchase it outright, it's, and that's for, what is it, 40, I think it's 48, right? Yeah, 48 of the tabulators.
Yes,
And 40 of the ADA devices.
Right.
Essentially, just to look at general terms. $462,875. That's if you purchased it outright today. If you were willing to pay the whole amount within 30 days of delivery, we give you a 1% discount, which saves the county $4,280. So that would be $458,595. And then you also asked for a lease option. Well, let's go back, we'll finish that. So then annual costs, the only annual cost if you purchase it outright would be the $12,600, and that's just for annual licensing and all the, stuff that goes along with the Unison system. You could also, and this is optional, if you purchase it outright, get a warranty. $15,800, that covers everything. If something breaks, we just fix it. You don't deal with it.
okay.
And that we would still, of course, come do all your maintenance and all the stuff that goes along with making sure the machines stay up to par with anything that comes down the pipe with the state. Now, if you do a leasing option, there's an $80,000 down payment. And then there's, we'd finance $382,875. So your quarterly payments for 6 years would be $21,769.
Okay.
If at the end of those 6 years you would like to purchase them outright, we'd extend that same payment for another 2 years, so 8 more payments, and then you would just own the equipment.
Okay.
We put that in there because as fast as technology moves, a lot of times people like to upgrade after 6 years, but if you don't want to, our machines, you can call, she has a map in there, everybody we work with.
Mm-hmm.
I always say really good stuff about the company I work with, but I really encourage you all to flip it over. On the back is a phone number and name of everybody we work with. And let them, let them give you feedback if you'd like.
Okay.
But anyway, so we offer that option. So after 8 years, you could own the equipment outright, and then you would have no quarterly payments as far as that goes. The only thing, and the $21,769 does include the annual licensing. It also includes the warranty, which we mandated if we are financing it.
Right.
So if anything breaks, we can obviously, keep it up to speed.
Okay.
And then we went through every single line item as well for your services, and we are a full service place. This covers everything she mentioned. It includes your ballots. I will let you know, we use a number to calculate the ballots, but I can't think of one county who's ever had to buy extra from us.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, how many did this include?
Yeah, it actually says in there,
There's a lot of information in here, so.
let's see, ballot sampling,
That's fine.
130,000 ballots throughout the 6 years.
Okay,
The only incurred cost you would probably have addition to that would be, printer paper once in a while on
Sure.
those machines. Now, when we come to a lock and load for your ADA devices, we replace every single one of them with a full roll, and each roll holds approximately 100.
I was gonna say, no, your
Ballots.
ADA devices use is it thermal paper, like
It
a
is a
smaller
thermal
roll?
paper, yeah, so
Okay.
we, when we talk about them, we say they're a really expensive pencil. because
Right.
Everything of ours goes through our, the exact same, device for tabulating the results, right? So if someone sits down at our ADA device, it's kind of like using your tablet at home or your cell phone or something, and it doesn't allow you to overvote. It tells you if you undervote. So when you're done, you hit print, you take that to our machine, and then you just feed it through. So
But it will be different as far as.
it's a little bit narrower is all.
Yeah,
And
that's
honestly,
what-
for the county per ballot, so it matches the same length as your normal ballot.
Right,
For the county per ballot, it's actually a little cheaper.
okay,
So we
I
just-
just wanted to like make sure I was thinking right, cause it's been
Yep, yeah, ours,
just a
ours.
little bit
ours are
since
pretty
I've seen.
And on that note, we'd be happy to come and show you our equipment.
Right, and again,
Because I don't know
I've
when you
seen
saw
it, we
it
went and
last.
saw Dan.
You see it at all the events, I know.
Yeah.
Alright, so dollars and cents once again, for all that stuff, us coming to do the maintenance, us doing the lock and load, us coming here for retab, us being here in case there's an issue and someone wants to do a discovery or whatever. We had one in one of our counties, we had a really close vote, our owner showed up for that, I mean, that's,
Right, yeah,
if you ask around, we're probably, you'll see us a lot,
sure,
let's just put it that way.
absolutely,
The quarterly payments for that, for a 6-year contract is what was requested, $18,232.
okay,
So if you lease it, it's $80,000 up front and approximately $40 a quarter. And then that would get you through your elections. If I add those two together, right, I think I did, right? Yeah, so 21, yeah, so if it was leased, you'd have your upfront costs and that would be $21,769
mm-hmm,
for your equipment, your licensing, your, not insurance, but your warranty. And then, it's on 2 different pages, the pricing for that is on page,
Right.
page 11. Total quarterly payments for,
oh,
we listed it all out first and then put the price in instead of putting it on that front page.
okay, alright. Okay,
But it's, yeah, so quarterly, like I said, be 80,000 up front, 40,000 $1 every quarter, and that would get you everything you need to do with the machine.
everything, okay,
Yeah, that, and like you said, that's coding your ballots, that's
great.
called making life really easy.
Yes, absolutely, and just as a heads up for you guys, because I'm not sure you know what we do in the office. We don't do the ballot coding, but we do most of the other stuff right now. As county clerk getting new election equipment, not knowing what the heck I'm doing on all of that, I don't feel comfortable starting to do that, and then the more I thought about it, if we don't have the election vendor do this for us, and if we aren't anticipating paying for it, if I don't win re-election, or if something happens to me, then the new county clerk would have to figure out how to pay for that out of a budget that they don't have it budgeted for. So that's why I went with the 6-year contract, just to get comfortable with the devices and everything, and then if we need to stop doing that, we can adjust it or whatnot. But
And
one question I do have.
on that note, just to say, typically, so that, obviously that second part, right, all your election services. If there's stuff you don't want and you'd like to take out, you could let us know. So I
Okay.
will tell you, typically what we do is when we start with someone, we like them to try everything, at least that very first election, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
just see, hey, you know what, we can handle this in-house, or maybe we can't, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll say, hey, we'll quickly rewrite that if you need us to take some of that out. Now,
And that was going to be one of my questions.
now, I can tell you, we've offered that to everybody we've ever offered it to we've never rewritten the contract.
Right,
Because
right,
we pride ourselves in taking care of you, and making sure
Sure.
that you don't have to worry about all the stuff that goes on.
Absolutely.
In places, so.
absolutely. Okay, so I think that's all I have. Well, no, I was
You
gonna
had a
ask.
question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had you quote for 48 devices.
Yep.
However, I'm not sure I need 48 devices, because I don't know in these new devices how many I need for vote by mail, how many I need for early, how many I need for post-election.
Correct, and all that's totally up to you, I mean, we have counties like, they do 1-in-1 in-house. We have
Okay.
a couple counties that they set up 4 ADA devices and just have one tabulator for all of their early vote.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and that's what I wondered as far as like, to fit, because right now, we have to have 2 for each of our, or 2 for early voting, 2 for vote by mail, because we can't fit all of our precincts on one device,
Our
which
device will take.
you can take all of the, okay, and that's what I thought, but I
Yeah.
could not remember.
Yeah, and our
for
ADA,
sure.
all of our the ADA devices, hold every single one, even when they're, so they might be assigned to a polling place.
Yeah.
But they would take a ballot, you know, what I'm saying is they're interchangeable, so
Sure.
gosh forbid you had
Right.
something happen, we just.
Okay, all right, so we didn't price those individually, which I didn't say that you had to. So is that something, if I choose not to
If you
go
change
with
the
all
number, obviously your
48,
price would
it's
go down,
going to go
absolutely, yeah,
down, right?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and so would your, the licensing is of course based on
the number,
number of machines, you know, I mean,
Okay.
there might be ranges in there, but I would expect that. How many precincts and polling places do you have currently?
we have 37 precincts and then the, county clerk's office.
Okay, and then is there a polling place for each one?
Well, some of them are in a shared polling place, but we have
You
them
want a machine
separate.
for each,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, cause we have some counties that they might, if they share polling place, I mean, the one machine can handle all of them.
Right,
But
I would
we have a
rather
lot that
keep them
prefer to be
separate.
separate as well, they'll just put the number up there, hey, you're
Right.
25, you're 26, or whatever it
Mhm.
might be. Yeah, so if you have, you said 37?
Mhm.
Yeah, so you could probably for sure get by, I would think. Cause even if you had 2 here, right, you had 1 early vote, 1 vote by mail.
Right, right.
And honestly, in a really small election, sometimes people put all those together in one, cause it's not the main.
Well, I know, but the way we've been getting FOIA requests lately, the vote by mail, they want to know what that tabulator did
And I can tell
separate
you-
and,
We just sent out an email to all of our counties, and on there is the exact things you're asking me
Right.
about. Hey, how many machines would you like?
right,
So when we come to set up your early vote, we would set it up exactly how you want it. If you wanted 2 and 2, that's what we would do.
okay,
But to answer your original question, we can program our tabulator to
Have all
take
of them.
every ballot for
Okay.
every county, or for
Okay.
every area of the county.
all right, very good. I think I'm done with my questions on that. So the other bid that we have is from GBS, they are our current vendor. I've already grilled him on a lot of my questions that I had, so, I know those answers from them. But I do want to send some of the questions out. So with GBS, there. Did you open this one? And he was not able to be here this morning, but will be here when we are talking about it. Okay, so their total for election equipment is $542,258.08. And that is election equipment.
Can you say that again, Brian? I'm sorry.
542,258.08.
Thank you.
And then they did offer a lease proposal for 104,521 for an 8-year term. And so for the okay, so I'm not sure how their annual license and warranty fee works, as far as, let's see, so that's $16,535. The total for their ongoing election service estimate is $43,610, and it looks like per year.
then with additional election judge training, but I think your group has had additional election judge training also. So, that is where we are at on those. But again, I don't wanna move forward because I wanna be able to look at these and study them and make sure I understand completely what the vendors are gonna do for me.
How long is these proposals good
How long are these proposals good for, did it say?
I don't know if she has it, normally she puts it in there for a shorter period of time, but, I mean, you guys are looking for after the spring, right, election?
I'm looking to begin for the 2024 primary is where
Correct,
I
yeah,
would wanna begin.
yeah, so then that's what she quoted.
Okay, okay. So I would like a motion to table this until October, so I can look
I'll
at
make a
them
motion
and,
that we table the decision until next month's meeting in October. Seconded by Steve, all in favor? Aye.
Sweet.
Okay.
Alright.
Motion carries.
And if
We'll
anyone
table-
wants to come and look at these, has any questions, come down and we can go over some stuff.
Real quick, just, well, because now we're gonna go to budget stuff.
Yeah.
Are we,
For 2023, we're good.
we're good.
Yeah.
No matter who's the.
Right.
Okay. We'll move on to the 2023 budget discussion. Jill gave us each, I emailed it, the kind of latest version of the budget. You should have a copy. It's looking at the general fund. Under the proposed changes, some of which we've talked about the last couple meetings and some other modifications. Right now, we're showing a balance of $31,517 positive. That obviously does not include whatever's going on with the general liability implications that we need to consider or get figured out here in the before next month. It also doesn't consider, hopefully, Susie's would at least offset whatever the general liability implications are. Her savings, so we need to get those two numbers firmed up here hopefully soon.
Yeah,
And then there's another sheet with it that showed kind of the changes we made on everything that was basically based off the conversations we've had in the previous conversations, but maybe Jill, maybe you could.
Yeah.
I'll just say this, the big mover is the salaries. Like every year,
right,
everybody puts in, every department head puts in different salary increases and none of them are aligned, and normally, historically, we align all those so that there's a set percentage, 2%, 3%, 5%, whatever, that everybody gets,
Sure.
that's non-union employee anyways, so that all the departments are aligned. And they're never aligned when we start out, so Jill has some numbers in here, and she can explain that, I guess, and then we can, I guess we
So-
need to make some decisions on that, is the moral of the story, on.
besides the FOP negotiations and the insurance for health rates and the liability questions that we have, which will obviously be answered down the road, a little closer to the time we need to vote on this. AFSCME contract, so the AFSCME contract currently states that anyone making under $13 an hour is to get a 4% rate increase. Anybody making over $13 an hour is at 2.75. And then highway contract is at 2.5%, but they did add on some like uniform allowance and other things they were happy with that. So with that in mind, the budget in front of you showing that 30,000 in the positive, that includes 5.5% increase for AFSCME employees and 6% increase for any chief deputies or administrative assistants that are not union. I put it in there because with all the department heads asking for raise increases and with minimum wage going up again, you know, they were ranging anywhere from 4% to 15% on what they were asking, some as high as 20%. So it will be up to the committee and what you want to do ultimately. If you want to stay with the AFSCME contract at the 4% to 0.75 and 2.5, or if you wanna be in minimal with those contracts being due next year, it'll help a little bit in deciding where those rates are gonna stand with the minimum wage increase going up. It just depends on if you would choose to do it this year or if you're gonna pay for it next year. Obviously, there's some savings if you do it next year. However, with several departments having issues hiring, we have several positions open now. And the quality of the applicants that they're getting, and some of the other businesses already have their minimum wage set at $15 an hour. You know, kind of took a look at it and went with the 5.5%, which still leaves us with the 30,000 in the positive as of right now, not knowing what FOP and any of the insurance is gonna be settled at. The health insurance I do have in here at the 9.9, which was, you know, our cap number for going with Blue Cross Blue Shield for this year. As Susie stated, we could get that significantly lower. However, if we make decisions on property, that could offset, so.
But Sheriff, how much do we have in for the FO? Cause we have 4.
I left the FOP contracts as they are now with the 2.5 annual increase, including the steps, so those could be as high as 5.5%. Depending on what year the officers are.
Submitted higher numbers. Right.
For, no, just for the administrative assistants, they were higher. But they're at the, if I remember correctly, the 5.5, I think it was 5%.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
I think, Tricia was a little bit more, but that was to get rough.
Yeah, so it was to get, you were trying to get Tricia at 17, and then Sandy, I think, was 5.5.
Yeah, so.
So. But as far as the FOP contracts, we left them as, cause they've been pretty consistently good about the 2.5 plus their steps. Which gives them annually approximately, depending on the year, anywhere from 2.5 to 5.5% usually.
So in theory, we could have. What were we talking about last night at the 911 thing? Which county recently did it for 3? You said that, John, I think.
I believe it was, Vermillion was 3 3/4. That's what I was told. I haven't seen it in writing anywhere.
Other items that we had talked about were the administrative rent fees, which were decided at management. They still have to go through the county board, but they're gonna go to $11 per square foot for the renters and $9.50 per square foot for 911. I haven't received Ida's request yet. I still have it in there as the 17.5 unless she requests otherwise. The transfer to joint dispatch sounds like it wasn't settled quite last night. I do have that in as the high number that we were going at 120. The other things were Amanda and mine salary requests, and then the transfer request from county clerk is still negotiable, so we don't have an amount set in there yet as well.
So there's nothing in there right now?
From the county clerk, she had tentatively, you know, it said it was negotiable, so 20,000 is what we're looking to possibly ask.
So if the FOP turns out to be, let's just say in line with Vermillion County, how much, do we know roughly how much that's gonna expose us?
Yeah, give me a minute, maybe I can get you an answer here pretty quick.
Say 4%, whatever is the.
Michael?
Yes.
One thing you might wanna remember or think about too, as far as the AFSCME people are concerned, is that 4% for the ones under $13 an hour is at 4%. Next year, it's gonna be 7. And the year after that's gonna be 7 in order to get them up to the minimum wage.
It could be lower if you decide to go above what their contract rate is this year.
That's right, but the reason we decided not to do that is because the net cost of the county is less by backloading it rather than front loading it. And that was the decision that was made at the time that the contract was finalized a couple of years ago. So I guess they got 4% each of the first 3 years and then 7 and 7. 7 and 7 is not written in their contract anywhere, but
It's implied.
it's understood by us in order to get it up to just to minimum wage, it's gonna have to be 7 and 7.
So you understand what John's talking about, the AFSCME union employees that are in the office here. Anybody under $13 has been getting the 4% increases, cause we have to get them up to the $15 by law. And that was what was negotiated in this most recent contract, but then there's a new contract, next year, that will go into place, and we know, I mean, there's no contract stating this, but in order to get them up to the $15, if we just go with what the contract is for this budget that we're talking about, then the next 2 years, we're gonna have to give anybody that is in that bucket, 7.5% or whatever the following 2 years of a raise. And what Jill had put together is that instead of giving them 4%, so this is just one subject on salaries within a bigger subject, giving them 5.5%. In part because I think Jill's logic, as she stated, is that with all the inflation and all those things, it's hard getting people to even apply for the jobs, let alone quality people. And we have an upcoming obligation to get them up to this level. We are not, I think the big point is that, on the employees that are above the $13 or whatever, the contract currently says 2.75%. So Jill's, the numbers you have in front of you are showing that both those two buckets, we have a contract. Theoretically, we need to do nothing. We could go with the 2.75 and the 4% as our contract was negotiated. She has in there though 5.5% increase for both those buckets.
Correct.
So that's,
And a lot of that is due to, I mean, you can go anywhere in town and they're gonna pay you $15 right now, even though they legally don't have to. When they're trying to get applications for positions and you have people outwardly going $12.60, 60 some cents, that's, ridiculous. But, just kind of putting together financially, yeah, go with the contract, it's gonna save us some money, but on the other hand, we have departments that are looking to keep and to hire people that they can, we can have handle county business, and $12.60 some cents right now is not attracting those people. So,
and then similarly, Joel in the highway, his contract is for 2.5% by
right,
contract. So Jill, all those AFSCME employees or who are under contract, we could go with the contract, as Jill pointed out. Jill has in there now, instead of going with the 4, 2.75 and 2.5, you can see that at the top up here. Giving them a 5.5% increase, and her logic is as she just explained. So I think that's, one decision needs to be made. I mean, on one hand, we would be willfully paying above what was the negotiated contract, which seems contrarian under any circumstance, that why you would do that. But the opposite side of that, I think Joe makes some very valid points that, okay, the job market right now is turned on its head and it's, the world's a weird place. And how do we deal with that? And we do have, on one of those three buckets of the ask me buckets, so to speak, we do have an upcoming problem or bigger expense coming down the road. And do you do this in order to deal with some of the issues that Jill's talking about? It'll take away a little bit of the pain down the road in theory, but it costs us more now, which is more expensive, so. And then it compounds, because every year we're giving increases, so it makes it cost us more over a 5-year period or however long period. So I think we need to decide how to deal, probably first and foremost, with these AFSCME contracts and what we're going to do with them, because legally, we don't have to do anything, we could just go by the contract. And every year that I've been on the board, that's what we do, that's why you negotiate this contract. But there's real world problems with the way the contract's written in today's environment that I think Jill brought up, that are the opposite end of that.
Maybe it would be helpful to know the difference in dollars and cents between the two.
Do you know what that is, Jill?
Not off the top of my head, and that's only because I can't get this computer to get onto my drive to get my information off of here, but in your previous question, you asked me about the FOP, you're gonna see about, well, it would be approximately, I would say with the 4% versus the 2.5%, it's gonna be approximately 60,000 for the sheriff's department and approximately 30,000 for the joint dispatch at the 4% versus the 2.5. That was your first question.
I did my math a little bit differently on the joint dispatch. You're at the 3.75 if for some reason we're gonna get that close to. And this is speaking in addition to what I've already submitted, so it's gonna probably be close to about 15,000 additional.
You said 15?
Yeah.
Why can't I not get this?
I've got to massage a couple of other numbers, including how much is gonna be in retirement, but that's,
Okay, so
that
that's.
might be a little bit
neither of
over, but
those-
it's close.
I'm switching subjects, sorry. You were
No.
talking about AFSCME, I was talking about AFSCME, and I'm going back to the FOP thing. That these contracts are gonna start being well, the sheriff's one is what, the 28th, where they're gonna start negotiating that. Right now, they're at 2.5% by their current contract. We're just making an assumption, hopefully it's not this number, but if you assume that it's gonna go up to 4%, that's what the FOP is gonna request, and if we assume that's what they get, that will be $60,000 more than what's in the budget currently, okay? So, I think if you think about all these things, we're at, what's our positive? 32,000.
32.
We're at 32,000 right now, positive. As we sit, if the sheriff has that, that's gonna cost us 60,000 more for the FOP. 911's a little, or the telecommunicator's a little weird because it doesn't come out of joint dispatch. I mean, it will cost us in the general fund more than likely, or the public safety or somewhere. A portion of that money would have to come from somewhere.
I would suggest probably 5,000, at least at our current conversations.
So let's just say that would be, I'm just gonna put 911, it's joint dispatch. Okay, then we have, let's just say, health. Is, what did I say? If she really can get the full, it was 40,000?
Yes.
thousand, that Susie's gonna try and get us.
If she says it, normally she gets it.
Help and
She's
stuff,
pretty
so
good.
I'm sure she wouldn't come here and told us that if it's
No,
not
that's what I
fairly
said. If she says it, she's pretty good
And
at
then we
keeping it.
have general liability.
Worst case, it sounded like $25,000 extra.
Yeah,
Hopefully that number we
If
can
Susie
get
can get, if Susie can get that, we'll make her our honoree of the year.
I know, she deserves a condemnation.
yeah,
Something.
25 is the high number for the liability,
Hopefully,
if that's
we
what
just
you
let-
choose.
We let Brienne get her records out of the old courthouse and we let her burn to the ground and we get that number down.
We didn't have room for that.
Not that we want
We're
that.
gonna have this room for storage.
It isn't gonna do you any good if it burns to the ground with the
No, it
with the
won't.
$8 million renovation anyway.
No.
The records will still be destroyed
Yes.
even with an $8 million
Right.
renovation. Okay. So that's those two issues. AFSCME,
I got it to load.
right now, we have this 5.5%, as I was explaining before, we have the three buckets. I'll write these over here, we have under 13. Is your computer working?
Yes, I just got it up.
Under 13, these people were going from 4% to 5.5 is what is in the budget right now.
Right.
And we have over 13. And then we have the highway. And this is 2.75, 5.5. This is 2.5. 5.5. You know what each one of these, if we left them at the contract, what's the cost of this versus what you have in the budget currently?
Let me just do it right here. So currently it would be at approximately 800,000 at the contracted price.
This is for all AFSCME or
All
just-
AFSCME.
Okay, well,
Mhm.
all right, that's fine.
And then if we were to go with 105.5, if we were go with the 5.5%, that would take us to 825.
We'll call it 25K. That is in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
These are not.
Right.
Everyone following?
Yep.
Okay. So we know some version of this has gotta happen. So what's that, what is that?
18 in the hole.
65, 15, negative 50. Negative 82, or sorry, negative
18.
18.
negative 18.
18.
So we're probably somewhere there with the general fund.
Right.
Negative 18 in reality, hopefully better than that, because John's gonna negotiate a really good deal with the FOP.
Well, in the 18, then we still need to, ask Brian what she's willing to transfer over for her negotiable transfer over.
Right now, we have.
What was that?
I said,
We're
we
taking money.
still need negotiable Brian transfer from,
I thought I answered you
Was it, or were you okay with 20?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought I sent you an email back.
That's
I don't
already
know,
in
you
the
may
notes,
have.
so that
I put it in there, but
Okay.
I wanted to verify.
I thought I sent you an email back that said sure.
Clearly into the camera.
Did you say sure? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to verify, because for some odd reason in my head, I don't remember seeing.
And maybe I didn't, but I thought I emailed you. But I did, sorry.
That's the goal today, they get that 18,000.
I mean,
Hey, Joe.
You're going over
we just
so
need to
many,
get these decisions
you're
made.
going over
It's
so
just-
many what ifs, Charlie, because the FOP contracts
We don't-
haven't been done. We don't have numbers back on insurance, so.
I will say this, and I'm not saying this fixes the problems or we don't
I heard a hey,
clearly
Jill.
make decisions, but I think we, based on our previous conversations with Kurt on the revenue side, it was the sales tax number, was that the one we were looking at that looked like maybe there was some?
That's one I kind of under budgeted, but I mean, that one we.
Sales
It
tax,
looks like it's under budgeted, like there's what, probably at least. another
property
100 grand
tax
we
is
were
at
talking.
1.9, that came from Bob, and then sales is at 1.3. And, income is at 1.3. And replace,
Yeah, one of those two, we thought we could.
At least 100.
I think in sales, we could definitely go up more.
you wanted to bump that one.
Well, I just
No,
thought,
we didn't bump it.
we didn't bump it, we were just kind of
Yeah, we had talked about
wait
it.
to see what we're.
Yeah, cause currently, for this year, sales, yeah, so we budgeted for FY 22 1.15, and we're currently sitting at 1.6. So you could bump it,
So we could even go up 300,000 and still be,
under what we're doing this year. Sure.
and you'd still be, and you definitely put your budget back in balance, over in balance.
Sure, and that's including the 5.5%.
You guarantee the numbers will come in?
I don't guarantee anything.
I mean, what caused that increase? We talked about that before, but you just really don't know.
They're 500,000, give or take, over what we budgeted for
I
this
mean,
year
should we
already.
expect it, I guess?
I mean, because, some of it is what I've heard is,
I mean, even if you went up
his salary, they said,
100,000.
some of
My
that
feeling
that they
is-
did includes his salary reimbursement and stuff like that too, so.
Yeah,
But they don't tell you all, they haven't been dictating that all around, they just said, here, we're giving you some money, but
we're not
we're
gonna
gonna take
tell you
some
where
of
it
it
comes
back
from.
by, give the sheriff a big raise.
I guess the moral of the story is that based on those numbers and stuff, it looks like, and with all these things that we are fairly certain, some variation of this, maybe not these exact numbers. And given what we know about the sales tax and stuff, that we still could cover this,
Yeah,
we could still be in the black, still be balanced, it's not, the general fund I'm talking about is not totally out of whack. That being said, there's not much we can do about this until they're negotiated. And John's guaranteeing he's gonna get a cut in half,
Which may not be till who knows when.
and we don't know when that's gonna happen. But this AFSCME,
CME.
CME, I thought there was a CMS. Right now, that $25,000 is in the budget.
Yep.
That we're doing this 5.5.
Yep.
This is more of a theoretical discussion of what, I guess, the board wants to do. Because we could save that $25,000 legally or whatever, not have a problem. It's more of dealing with the reality of the current world, what the board wants to do. But I would say we need to make a decision on that for sure. Or at least have some kind of a discussion and be on track to deciding exactly what we wanna do. I will say this, going back to the meetings we had at the end of July, it's obviously a real problem that Joe left, but he had a lot of concerns about it. I know Brienne,
Yeah,
everybody has concerns about this as far as the department heads and the ability to hire people, retain people, and all those kind of things. And I guess that's why Jill came up with that number, which was kind of
And
a
even,
trying to mold together.
you know-
It doesn't even have to be that number, right?
Right.
She just came up
We
with that
just-
because she was trying to
meet in the middle
make some
somewhere,
kind of normalcy out of
logical.
a lot of different input. And that's what she came up with. And I guess that's a starting point. So we don't have to do that number either. We don't have to do anything.
And I
We don't have to do that number. It could be bigger, it could be smaller, whatever.
Right, and I think I speak for everybody, we work here every day, even the morale of those that are already currently working here, that would significantly increase that morale, so.
So I think we need to kind of at least set a direction, what we wanna do and on that one. There isn't much we can do about the FOP other than know that it's probably gonna change. But we at least have some rough numbers of what that's gonna be. And yeah. John?
I honestly think with the FOP, one of the hard parts is gonna be not so much how much of an increase it's gonna be for this year, it's gonna be for the second and third years in the contract, because this year is gonna be looking at inflation as a guide. What's that gonna be like in the second and third year? That's really a I don't know where you're gonna go with
If
that.
we get inflation under control, or I can see knowing the Federal Reserve, they'll overreact in the other direction and it'll bring everything to a grinding halt. And if you're still, given higher than inflation raises for 3 years, if it grinds to a halt, then the number keeps getting bigger and the other, I don't know there's nothing we can do about that today, but
Kind of what,
that's
you
just
know,
part of the
take a look at
negotiation.
that in the middle number, you're talking inflation of 10%, you know, and then we look at the percent we're looking at giving them, that 5.5, I don't think is too.
I think another thing that enters into the FOP part that you're talking about is we're kind of in a market right now where the one that has the advantage is the employee. If we increase what we're gonna pay, if there's a demand in Iroquois County for 2,000 people and to work and there's only 1,000 available, the 1,000 is gonna get pretty good chance of bargaining their way into higher wages.
And I think that's what's
And I think that's part of what we're looking at right now, because the people that don't wanna work, it means the ones that do wanna work have a stronger bargaining power. So if we increase ours and Walmart or someplace says, oh, well, we gotta stay ahead of them, they're just gonna go up higher. Maybe we have to play that game, I'm not saying we don't, but I think we need to understand what
The others,
we're
I'm
looking at.
playing devil's advocate because I'm not saying I necessarily agree with you. The other side of that is that if you don't, people leave or you can't even get them hired on day one, you know, I mean.
No, I agree wholeheartedly, I'm just bringing it up so we understand
Yeah,
that
exactly.
what we're looking at, that it isn't, in other words, it isn't a guarantee if we give more money that we're gonna solve the problem.
Agreed. So. I guess any input from the other committee members, or Steve, you got any thoughts, or Joe or Charlie?
I assume that you anticipate that ASME won't go on strike if you pay them more money.
They can't,
They cannot go on
they
strike.
can't, it's in the contract.
Oh.
And that was another reason for the 5.52, is if you take a look at the FOPs with their equal and their steps, they're at about 5.5 as well, so.
Charlie or Joe, you got thoughts, or?
Granted, they do much, you know, they do more dangerous work than we do.
No, to your point, Steve, they cannot go on contract, but I've got 4 letters here that just came in the mail from FOP stating that as of November 30th, they don't have a contract. They're required to file this with the state. They're already taking that step to make sure we know that's what their intention is as of November 30th.
I guess, Brianne, Kurt, you guys have any opinion on that part or thoughts?
Well, I mean, I do, I'm trying to hire somebody in and you tell them the salary and they look at me and go, I don't need more of that now, why do I wanna?
I appreciate the fact that you guys are talking about it and actually looking at it, because I don't feel like that has ever happened before, so I appreciate the fact that, you're looking at it and trying.
Sorry.
One of the things that seems to be, has been brought up in the past when we talked about some of this, is that a lot of our fringe benefits are better than what some of the competition provides. So that either is something we either could use as a selling point or consider reducing some of our fringes to pay a higher salary.
We run into issues when we start talking about benefits. This was a big pain point in a leadership symposium that I attended with other 911 professionals. People do not care as much about benefits as they did even 10 years ago or the previous generation. So when we talk about the selling points of the benefits, many of us have families, so yeah, to me, benefits are important. I need my health insurance, I need my retirement plans, etc. But with these newer individuals that are in their 20s that are really joining the workforce and finding their real job, they don't care right now as much. I've got people that I've had that are in their 20s, especially in their early 20s, they're still on mom and dad's insurance. They care not. So in some cases, you're walking a razor's edge. And benefits are really no longer a good discussion anymore. It's sad to say, but it's the honest to God's truth.
I appreciate mine.
I appreciate mine, man. For heaven's sakes, if I lost it, I could only imagine what the health exchange would do to me. And 911, I'll provide a further comment. 911 pays a little bit more than Asks Me is right at the moment, and I'm still having a problem.
How many applications did you get for the last job?
Thoughts on this?
I got about close to 50,
Wow.
if I remember correctly.
So it's not necessarily a problem attracting applications, it's just hiring the right person.
But
Getting the right person in the door is the challenge.
the department heads are all,
have to. I think that, with inflation.
Actually, costs are going up. Part of the problem is we've given raises the last few years and they took home a smaller paycheck than they did the year before. I think they see that now. They're gonna be strong about, I don't wanna do that again.
I think there is. My personal feeling is, I don't like, the whole point of negotiating the contract was we negotiated the contract, and I don't think that's fair. That being said, I do get, having run my own business and having 3 employees, it's this environment and making sure you keep the good people and whatever is, it's important. And maybe, I know this isn't gonna probably make us the highest paid employer or anywhere near it, but maybe it sends a signal that we do value the employees and can retain and hopefully attract some, but retain the good ones and
You gotta keep in mind too, and a lot of these offices, take Kurt's for example, he's got 2 people in there. So, you know, if he can't hire for that position, who's gonna be there to collect the money or answer the phone calls or deal with dogs or, you know, you're talking about 1 or 2, you're talking about with these Ask Me employees, there's probably less than 20 of them. But they're necessary positions. Highway, they're all Ask Me employees. Circuit clerk, Ask Me employees. So kind of just giving them a little bit of an inclination of, hey, it's not just, you know, you have a contract, tough, that's what you do. We understand that the circumstances right now are different.
I just, looking at the, the under 13 AFSCME employees. Just a comment, because I have 3 of those employees in my office. With gas, what it is, with where one of them lives. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's not like she lives that far away.
Sure. No, I get it. Okay.
Well, and this has nothing to do with that part. I have somebody who wanted to hire. I know a friend of mine, he wanted to hire somebody full-time. She wouldn't take the job full-time because of the salaries or whatever. It would throw her into a category where she would lose her benefits. And the problem they've got is nothing, we're trying to deal with one part. We've got other people who would probably love to work, but they've got, if they got food stamps, daycare, or whatever that's being subsidized, the government hasn't adjusted any of those other numbers, and it's throwing some of our workforce people into a problem. That's totally, a problem here, but you also run into that too.
A lot of different situations.
Yeah, I know, that's a problem.
But as Bree just said, there's obviously, just fuel alone is crazy, and obviously that's not hopefully gonna last forever, but doesn't look like there's much effort being made to stop it.
Oh, sure, they're gonna go all electric.
Yeah, that'll fix it. Better sign a longer contract with Smart Watt before it's 60 cents a kilowatt.
It's probably less than 20.
How many solar panels can we put on the building and on the ground and everything?
All right, I guess, do we leave it the way that it's proposed here, or I guess committee members, or Joe, you got any comments or thoughts?
Actually, there's 22.
22 AFSCME employees, that's including the highway?
So that's about.
This also, to another subject. But I guess I didn't get into this, but the chief deputies and admin assistant.
That I have them in this budget in front of you at 6% right now, because a lot of those positions, they were asking 10, 12, 14, as high as 17%.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into that, so this, I guess, go ahead.
But those aren't contracted.
I'm good with that part of it, for sure.
Okay. Well, unless anybody else on the committee has anything other to say, I don't know that we have to make a motion, but we'll leave it as it's presented here, or whatever, as Jill presented it with regards to AFSCME. The one thing I think John has brought up before, do we need to talk with the union if we're gonna do something like this? Especially, I'm sure they're not gonna complain, but.
I think that's a question we probably need to propose to Mr. Hibben.
Yeah, okay, so let's.
I wondered that if you had to negotiate, if you wanted to, even if you wanted to give them more money, you had to negotiate that. And I asked you that, Jill, but you didn't know.
I
So,
emailed,
let's leave it as it is.
Say you
I did
emailed
put on
get a
the-
response, so I will read the email right now.
And let's just leave it how it is for now in the proposed budget. And Jill, we need to put it on the agenda, Amanda, for next month, that we need an answer with regards to AFSCME. And Jill will look into getting the answer on whatever might be involved, if there's something else we need to do. But we'll just leave it the way it is for the time being.
I have a question. Is there a minimum number of employees that have to be on the union to have AFSCME?
That have to pay.
The only reason I'm saying is if I have somebody who's working in my office that's gonna be a chief deputy that's in AFSCME now, that's gonna be, she's leaving, and maybe my new hire may not wanna join it either. So then there'd be 2 people that wouldn't be on it, and if you fall, well, I was told at one time if you fell below a different number, whether they could even keep the union. I have no idea,
None of the circuit clerk employees fall.
Well, they belong, they just
It's
don't
just
pay.
fair
the-
share,
They're not
yeah, they just don't have
Right.
a voice, it's still a position, they just don't have
Right.
a voice and votes.
Right.
What was that again now?
Circuit clerk doesn't pay their union dues, but the
They're
employees,
being represented, but they're not.
they're being represented.
Right, their fair share, and the Supreme Court said that AFSCME paying fair share dues was unconstitutional or whatever, so they can be represented by the union, they just don't have a voice, like when they vote on a contract or something like that.
I guess your question is something Mr. Hibbert have to answer.
Right.
When we talk about all these numbers, since we have so much unknown, especially with the FOP contracts, and we're probably not going to know by the time the budget has to be finalized, what is the plan? Is it gonna be a situation where the budget needs to be opened up afterwards?
I would assume so, yes.
Because I'm assuming that we're gonna have the same problem in ETSB, so I'm kind of just trying to make sure that I gauge the same suit as what the county's plan is and propose that to the ETSB as we get into it.
Yep, I'm sure this will linger into the beginning of the year.
I would hope though that we would have some idea of a
Direction.
general guideline after the 28th, and we could see what their proposals are.
Okay, then I say we leave it as it is right now with regards to AFSCME. And Jill will report back next month on any issues or how to deal with the AFSCME end of it.
What was the average?
All right, the other two salary-related things I hadn't brought up yet were the chief deputies and the admin assistants.
10%.
She has in that budget at 6%. And as was stated, that number, there were people requesting 20% increases and 5%.
Yeah, and
It's
it was all
over the
over board.
And so she has 6% in there for the chief deputies. Which it says set at 5%, so that's.
What? I have it at 6.
No, I know, but your little comparison here says set at 5%, which it's not set.
No, that was the low end.
So, I guess. just so
It's
we're
not a
clear, that's in
contractor,
there,
yeah.
that there's no union contract with those employees, they're not union employees, but the number, what's included in this number is 6% for the chief deputies and non-union employees, basically. Right, okay. What other general fund issue are we missing here?
The transfer to joint dispatch, I have it in as 120,000, it is, not settled yet, I mean, that's what we normally, that was the high of what the finance committee normally wanted to transfer over to joint dispatch. But
So-
that's not set in stone yet, cause they don't have their salaries or their, budget.
There is, in this budget, we have $120,000 coming from the general fund to joint dispatch.
Yes,
Eric's smallest proposal was $150.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, and if we take no money from public safety, which we haven't gotten into,
It's
it would be like 205,000, and that's before the potential salary increases. I don't even know where to begin on that one, so I guess we probably realistically have another. I mean, if we take money from public safety, I guess the best case scenario as it sits right now, unless there's more money that comes directly from ETSB, is another 30,000 for that's just the general.
Michael, I guess the thing with that though is that if we're gonna wanna continue with having our contribution be the same as the cities, we're gonna have to wait and see what the city's gonna come up with. That was one of the gists of the meeting last night, was that he's supposed to come back on the 5th of October and tell us what the city's gonna.
I understand, I'm just trying to figure out.
I mean,
So if they come back and say 120,000, then
but if he comes back and says 120 is all they can do, are we gonna stay at 120 and make up the difference out of public safety?
I guess that's one of the things that has to be decided, or I mean, I guess, we probably need to have in our heads how we're gonna deal with that, so as it's currently proposed by Eric, and I guess the 911 board has not approved or his budget, but, as it's being proposed by him, we'd have to pay $30,000 more than what we have in our general fund budget. But we have always paid the same amount that Watsika pays. And they have $120,000 in their budget too, so we both have $120,000 in there. So just on our shares, there's a $60,000 shortfall of money to fund joint dispatch. That's assuming the remainder of it's coming from public safety, which is $150,000 as well.
And the other thing is, the only entity that I was waiting on for a request was IDA. I sent Angel an email July 18th and haven't gotten a response yet. So I left it at 17.5 as it previously is this year.
That's not gonna change.
It's not gonna change. Yeah, and I just like to say that, you know, I did reach out and I haven't gotten another request, so I have it still at 17.5.
She might come back and say she wants 50, but it's up to what we decide we're gonna give. That's a voluntary contribution, so.
Right, and I understand that. I just wanted to make everybody aware that I haven't gotten a request. That was the only entity I didn't get a request back from.
I guess, back to the joint dispatch, I said at the meeting last night, I attended the 911 meeting, and obviously Charlie was there and John was there, but we gotta figure out a way to pay for it like it seems like we do every year, but we have to start having discussions about the long-term solution, because this thing is unsustainable, because right or wrong, the telephone fees haven't changed in a decade, or never, whatever, and our costs are exponentially growing, as we see there. And the joint dispatch is basically all telecommunicator salaries, and it keeps getting bigger, and it's growing at, if they get 3.75%, 4%, whatever, that factors out to be about an 8% increase every year. And then it's compounded on itself, and our revenue sources are not growing. So it's a train wreck pretty much now, but it's every year gonna get worse. But I guess that doesn't solve the current problem. I guess the moral of the story is, I think we gotta know what Watsika says and figure out what we wanna do with public safety, but potentially just to have a number up there. That number's not firm, just I guess like most of these numbers aren't, but there's potentially at a minimum a $30,000 exposure to the general fund. I'd say that's probably, hopefully, worst case, maybe, I don't know.
I'd call it conservative.
And then just to kind of remind you again, hang on one second.
But next finance committee meeting, Watsika's supposed to come back, they meet the night before us. So like the Wednesday evening, and Watsika's supposed to come back with what their number is. I think that's gonna probably dictate a lot of the rest.
And then,
It sounded like they had 120,000 in their fiscal year is different than the county's is, and
They run May 1st to April 30th.
right? And they have 120,000 in theirs. So our current budget is the same as, we're all on the same page, but they know that the whole discussion was, and Mayor Allhands was there, was that obviously we gotta find the money somewhere, and he was gonna go back and talk with other people and come back with what they're willing to do.
I would say a lot of our conversation that last night was mainly a education for Mayor Allhands as to how this was all working.
It's kind of, first time it was explained to me, it makes your head spin a little bit on how the joint dispatch and ETSD stuff works. So I don't know that there's anything we can do right now, but that's probably more of a discussion for next month, but just to put it on the radar, that's.
So as of right now in this budget, I have all AFSCME at 5.5. I have all non-union, which is your chief deputies, whatnot, at 6%. The only department heads that are not elected, which would be Chris Drake, maintenance, he's in at 6%. Bob Yergler for assessment, he takes the same as the elected officials that had been previously agreed upon. EMA requested 22,656.38. And then I requested 44 for Amanda and 64 for myself.
So EMA, that was the total amount he requested?
That's the total amount, so that was
How
a,
much of a percent?
I knew you were gonna ask me that, give me one second. That was 5.5%.
I assume if we're doing 5.5% on the rest of these, we very much need to keep that in line.
Did we ever get a sheet that compared all the employees and what departments and how many and? Thought I saw one, but I can't find it.
Yeah, I'll resend it to you.
So, alright, you said Drake was at 6%, Bob's was already determined. And Eric's at 5.5, Stacy, EMA. And
I don't know if you wanna put it on for next month's agenda to do an executive session for Amanda and myself or not, cause
probably need to, yep. And then, yeah, we have yours, so. Let's put on the agenda to talk next month about Amanda and Jill's salaries. We'll have an executive session about that because there was a substantial increase requested. I would say on the other ones, we'll just leave them as is for now unless somebody has a different opinion. think that gets most of the general fund done, right? So, okay, so for next time, we should know hopefully something about 911. And we have to know something about 911, I should say. So that needs to be, hopefully, we need to get it cleared up by next month, so.
Once we know how that conversation falls out.
Right. So that is a decision or numbers we gotta get adjusted in there. We should know on the health department, we should know on general liability by then. I don't know, do we need to say something about the general or you're just gonna have a couple proposals about what we do?
Yeah, I emailed him already.
Letting the courthouse burn or whatever?
I emailed him, yeah. And I already forwarded Jim's response.
John doesn't like that. I'm joking.
I think we need to find out for sure what our obligations are with that building.
We need to make sure.
There was a time, if I remember the history of the county correctly, from what I've been told, there was another courthouse even before that. It's not around anymore. I think if you know where Russell builds stores, it would been like about a block or two north of there and a block or two west. There's a park over there now, and I believe Russell told me that used to be where one of the first, if not the first courthouse of the county was located.
And he knows some things.
That's correct.
I don't say he knows everything, but Russell knows quite a bit.
So, I mean, I don't know that ever got on the National Register. Probably not, but I think, our obligation
Yeah, we need to get clarity on
needs to be clarified.
what we are actually responsible for. Okay, and then I don't think any of these other ones we can really do anything on. And we need to then have on the agenda an executive session to talk about Jill and Amanda. I think that's it for the general fund.
For the general, yes.
And, all right, the other looming thing always is the public security, or public safety. Probably the only other one that has decisions that need to be made here, so we can get this thing wrapped up at some point.
Okay, so public safety currently has a request from joint dispatch of $150,000, that's to help with the salaries. And then the sheriff's request of $348,883.70 was determined last meeting to go down to $252,000 by the committee.
That was based on the car stuff.
Yeah.
We moved it down a little bit from what you originally used. How much was that for the cars?
$252,000. The total requested. Or the total decided upon, excuse me.
I guess they're not cars, but I'll put cars. And then
$150 for joint dispatch salaries.
I'm gonna put 911, I know it's wrong, but
It's wrong.
it's a lot easier to write than
You could just write JD. That's what we normally do.
juvenile detention.
Stop it.
And then,
That's what's currently in there, and just a reminder to the committee that it was voted that sheriff went ahead and ordered those cars because there was a waiting list, so that's 4 vehicles.
and then he also had requested, and I think temporarily we pulled it out of there,
A sheriff's salary of 48,800.
49, whatever. The sheriff had requested a deputy for $49,000, an additional deputy. This is in addition to Assistant Park, Buckley, and all of that stuff. So that is a total of what?
Took the deputy out.
I'm not a very good teacher.
I don't have the deputy in there.
$299 plus 490. 499? No.
No.
300, 400, 449.
451.
51, yeah.
That's what's, I guess, was requested or what.
I don't have the deputy.
The deputy is not in.
No.
I guess we don't really have an up-to-date public safety
Hey,
number on these
Michelle?
stuff, but
I emailed it to you. What?
Indemnity fund, is that a separate fund?
Yeah.
Okay.
415, I think.
Huh?
415, I think.
I think in the budget, we have budgeted on the revenue side of public safety, $500,000 coming in. Depending on what we do with these,
Fund
I
420.
may have to change that.
spending
Mine doesn't want
$451,000.
He's too busy.
Well, if, depending on the shortfall for the FOP, those 4 contracts, will you be using some public safety money to cover that?
Well, wouldn't 100, even if we raised the sales tax by a couple hundred, wouldn't that cover some of that?
I mean, yeah, so right now, rough numbers, I know they're not real, but we're 50 grand in the hole on the general fund, but
And we're probably,
Yeah.
consider you could put
$100,000 to $300,000.
$200 to $300 under there would cover.
So, I mean,
Right, but I'm.
No, I know, but I mean, that would bring a lot of that back into balance, wouldn't it, if we raised that a couple 100,000, correct?
well, I mean,
It just depends
we could cover.
if we're gonna open the budget or just use public safety money to cover that increase, once we find out what it is.
True, yeah.
Because, and if they come in and say, we want 10% and we're not budgeting, we might go to arbitration and that might be next June or July before that gets resolved.
Gotcha.
And then we'd have, if they get the 10%, which they probably would, we'd have to pony up that money somewhere. And that's what we did with the telecommunicators when they had their initial contract. That's why we went to arbitration, because it was not realistic, but we lost anyway.
At least for the time being, I think, okay, yes, this could maybe not be the worst case scenario, so it could be worse, but if that's somewhere in line, given what we know about Vermillion County and what the sheriff's kind of heard through the grapevine, it probably somewhere in the vicinity of where we'll end up. I guess I wouldn't be 100% worried about the general fund.
And I think the way we're doing is fine. I just brought up that, you know, when we're considering public safety, do you need to think of the eventuality that could occur?
Right. So right now, and I don't know if that number is the 500,000 that we're assuming we take in for public safety, is that conservative or is it, I mean, I think it's a little higher than that actually, isn't it, this year, but who knows?
We'll tell you.
It doesn't matter. We got 500,000 assumed and
I'll tell you.
there's been 450,000 requested at least.
Because the vehicles from the 22 budget have not been taken out of there.
Well, yeah, and then we have a pre-existing balance on top of it.
Right.
So
To date, we've taken in 429,000
that's through August, so we
through
got
August.
3
And you've got
months.
200 you hadn't spent on there.
Yeah.
That was that's an additional
Four,
budget, right?
430.
Yeah.
But we still haven't taken out for September, October, and November. So an average of
It was 143,000.
43,000 something.
So that put us at like darn near 575
Yeah,
for
which
this
is
year.
about typical what it's been running, so.
So we have 500,000 in the budget, but we're on track for this year as far as income for the 23 year. But we're on track to probably collect 575,000 out of it for 2022. But if there's a recession or sales go down or who knows what.
And with those vehicles, we're adding to the fleet, but we're also adding the value of the trade-ins. Because when we trade in a truck for a Tahoe with 150,000, we're gonna get a heck of a lot more than we would when we're selling them Impalas for $2,500.
Right.
So that's gonna really offset future purchases, because we haven't even got to the point, since we started getting the Tahoes and the trucks, we've not got to the point to where we're starting to retire those vehicles yet. So that's gonna be a bonus.
But I guess. Yeah, that's the moral of the story is the stuff that's requested from the public safety, we have more than enough money to pay for all of those things. But I know there's other people on the board that have very strong opinions about what we're doing with the public safety money. And
To date, the fund balance is at 779,000. That's the fund
But the cars
balance.
aren't out of,
The cars aren't out of there yet.
so how much is
Transfer to
that?
joint
How many cars are
dispatch.
supposed to be this year, 3 or 4?
Pretty much.
It was 4,
I got 3 more months.
200,000 was.
I do it monthly.
For 2022
Okay.
for that.
So that's bringing up another 140-ish, where did you say 77?
Sorry, 779.
920 minus 220, we'll have like 700,000 at the end of the year, and then that'd be the balance after we take the expenses out, whether they come right now or not. I mean,
Got a bill date of December for the Tahoes is what I'm told.
So, but roughly we'd have, after the cars come out, whatever year they come out in, we'd be at 700,000 that's been saved, I guess. Would be in there, or we still got, we have stuff that needs to go out for joint dispatch out of that too?
I have 3 more months, so 150. No, I'm sorry.
Joint dispatch was pretty nominal this year.
Yeah.
I think it was like right around the 30 mark, maybe
Yeah.
less,
30 a month, or,
for the whole year.
oh, so
Because of the way that, because ETSB contributed so much, there was.
Yeah.
Excuse me. There was very little that was coming out of public safety tax this year. I apologize, I don't have the harmony in front of me to.
90. Well,
no, I'm saying 700 after we take the cars out, roughly we'll have at the end of the year, whether it's this year or what, that we subtract. If we did all these things, we'd subtract 450, so we gain at the end of fiscal year. Basically, at the end of at the end of 22, we should have roughly 700,000 after you take out the cars and the public safety. Whether it's this year or next year, I'll just put it at year end, we have that. Right now, we have budgeted $500,000 of new tax revenue coming into public safety. And if we did all those things, we'd take out 450, so we'd add $50 to the ending fund balance at the end of next year. Assuming John's scenario of FOP 10% and all that stuff doesn't happen. We have 750,000. He's gonna negotiate better than that, we have faith in him.
Paul and Charlie are on the committee too, don't lay it all on me.
Okay.
So those figures look okay on the left side?
I don't have the deputy in there. You gotta let me know if you want me to put it back in there.
It's in there.
The last
It's
version,
in there in those numbers.
well, I
The
have,
last
so I have the
version of the
deputy
budget that they have.
shown
They had
here,
me take it out.
but the conversation we had in July, I think, maybe we pulled that out. So that would be cars. I think we're all kind of agreed that it's gonna be done. Or, I don't know that there's anybody that's said otherwise. Joint dispatch, don't know what's gonna happen with that number, but that's what Eric's requesting right now. So we assume that's gonna be in there. I think the one thing that a decision would need to be made is sheriff was requesting this extra deputy. And he can tell you again what the reasoning was. It was to get Lieutenant Moorfield or
Well, it would actually put 3 patrols on the day shift, Monday through Friday, as opposed to only having 2. And that would assist with, pretty much the whole operation, including transports and medical and, safety of the officers. And only having 2 deputies on for the whole county. This morning, one was on a welfare check in Gelman, and one was on his way back from Champaign on a transport, and we got a alert on the LPR of a stolen plate that went through Gelman. We didn't have anybody to respond to it. So.
Moral of the story is that he's requesting an extra deputy so that they can have these 3 people on, and we have to make a decision, and that he was proposing to take that out of the public safety fund. So that would be an ongoing expense there. To have this deputy paid out of that. Right now, it's not in the latest numbers that she emailed.
No, the correctional officer is, but the deputy is not.
That's another thing. In the general fund budget, there is an additional correctional officer in there that he had requested as well, and that's still in there. So that doesn't change any of these numbers, but there is a.
So currently in here, there's 13 deputies and there's 10 correctional officers full-time that are budgeted for in the current budget. Plus the 2 lieutenants and 1 sergeant. So if you approve to take another deputy out, then that would put him at 14 deputies and 10 correctional officers, 2 lieutenants and 1 sergeant.
I guess any thoughts by you guys on, or questions, or you guys, I guess we don't necessarily have to make a decision right this second, but next month we have to make a decision.
What he currently has? 2 lieutenants, 1 sergeant, 13 deputies,
So I would
and 10 correctional.
recommend you talk with the sheriff or whoever you need to talk with. I'm sure he'll stay around and talk with you on why he needs this
Additional
extra
deputy
deputy.
is what we're being.
Bent my
asked for.
ear about it, so, but we need to make a decision or a recommendation to the full board on what we do with that.
I like your presentation. You left that there can be a few changes in this and still be fairly easy next month for a better decision.
Thank you. I guess, do we have a list, and maybe we need to like bullet those things out for our meeting next month to make sure we don't forget anything on what we have to make a decision on, so we can get this thing.
So we're waiting on FOP negotiations, health rates, and the liability property. Next meeting, we're gonna put on executive session for Amanda and myself. We are waiting on the 911 budget. I need to make a decision on deputy out of public safety. And we are leaving it as the 5.5% AFSCME contract and 6% for other uncontracted employees. Did I miss anything?
I think that's it, other than you need to get answers on the, I mean, not, we don't need to make.
The
a
courthouse,
decision.
I
The
already
courthouse.
got a response from Jim and I forwarded it to you and John.
Okay,
Basically what it says is. I've gotten 12 emails since that. Alright, it says, I am not an expert on offering advice on matters like this. My inclination is to say no. We can't be forced to rebuild an historic structure that is damaged or destroyed. However, the insurance company should weigh into this question and offer an opinion. Their lawyers could offer better guidance to us rather than myself, who has no idea how a rebuild or not would work. I think being on the historic register creates its own set of issues such as building maintenance, remodeling, replacement of original fixtures such as windows and doors, roofing, flooring, and etc. Maybe the county should consider paying for a consultant to professionally advise us about the care and upkeep of the old courthouse. Since I'm going to be short-staffed soon, there's no way I'm going to take the time to research this issue the way it should be handled. But I think it is important to get some answers to your questions because sooner or later, the county will have to deal with the future of the old courthouse.
I guess maybe ask Myron or something if they, I don't know, call the feds or whatever, whoever's in charge of the program.
Somebody has to go and see what the regulations of the National Register are. That's probably where the answer is.
Okay, so we need an answer on that.
Probably talk to the Historical Society, cause maybe some of their insurance covers some of the building too, maybe it doesn't, I don't know.
I don't know that they have any, do they?
Insurance? Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah,
What are they doing?
all the content, at least all the contents of the building.
She's got stuff in there.
My records are hopefully worth $10 million.
So I don't know whether her records are part of theirs or that would be part of, I guess we'd have to talk to them and see what all their
But
insurance
if they're
covers.
gone, they're gone.
No, that's a good point. You guys should know.
Yeah, cause no, I know, well, I mean, they pay for liability, I do know that and stuff.
They're supposed to
Yes.
I think it'd be a good idea to get a list of all the employees and what departments they are, how many people are under the $13 and how many over.
I can
You know,
resend that
how
to you.
do these numbers in
Well, Mitchell's on there.
total impact the budget?
That might be something that.
So we can kind of see what, maybe what one department makes or doesn't make that another one does.
Yeah, we want to know if they're managing shields.
Right.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
That'd be good. Mitchell's president of the board.
So you want a breakout of
Like you said, there's
A
22
couple others.
past me
and
employees, if we
position
could
to
just
the current payroll.
Well, sure.
break it.
Okay.
So you count these like the circuit clerk if there's
Yes,
enough numbers.
they are union
Is there any
positions.
other,
They
any
just are not
others?
voting members of you.
are there any other things that we need to, I think that should be about it, right? Yes.
It seems to me you have an awful lot of valuable information on that board up there.
I wanna
I
take a
don't think
picture
it
of it
should be
before
left
you
on
erase
the
it.
board, but I hope there's some way it can be recorded somewhere, so maybe at the next meeting it can be
Hey, Jill.
resurrected or
Jill.
referred to.
Is this camera on there?
No, it won't catch all of it. It has some of the board, but it doesn't have all of it. Here, I'll show you.
I mean, we've gone through a huge discussion on everything,
Yeah,
I
we
can see it get lost.
Maybe take some pictures and like summarize it.
Oh, yeah, it
Put the
does.
real numbers
Okay.
instead of mine.
Zoom in on it?
Michael, if you move, we can get the whole board.
Zoom in so you can see.
Not that fast.
I will be taking a picture
Your
too.
lower half running through the building, through the whole thing.
Is it focused clear enough to read? Sometimes I have a hard time reading.
Oh, yeah, that was a good focus that you just
Yeah,
had.
right now, it's all right there.
Yeah, that's really good.
Take a picture and
Yeah, I always
maybe
do.
even put it in
Add
a
that to the
spreadsheet or something, or a summary document, so and send
There
it
you
out to everybody. So
It's
that
got a
way,
good shot of him,
with the
man.
real numbers maybe instead of my
Chicken scratch?
my estimates.
Yeah.
Kind of put the same information all on one piece of paper, so, and maybe even in addition with it, bullet out those decisions we need to make.
Yep.
And send it to the committee and
Yep.
whoever else, I guess, wants it. Okay, then I say we move on to claims. Sure everybody's been studying them. Charlie moves to pay the claims, Joe second. Call the roll, please.
Young,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
McTaggart.
Yes. Okay, any old business or new business? If not, have a motion to adjourn. Bowers, Young, all in favor? Aye. Sorry, Amanda, that was even